Right, good morning. A very warm welcome to you. My name is Hannah Quirk and I am the module leader for marketing data analytics. So it's lovely to meet you all. In today's session, what we're going to do, we are going to look at the second assignment. So last week, Cassie looked at the first assignment and this week we'll be looking at the second assignment. So I haven't got access yet to the attendance, the way to record the attendance. So what I'm going to do is I will be creating, I'll basically create a list of who's been. So please, I can't give you an attendance code because I don't have access to that system yet, but I shall ensure, because I'm recording it as well, I can see who's attended. So please have no concerns about that. Okay, so let me share with you some information about the second assignment. And then I can show you, sort of walk you through it really and what we're looking at. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a Word document to start off with. Please let me know. One thing about when I'm sharing my screen is that I cannot, just one sec. Oh, okay. So one thing to bear in mind when I'm sharing my screen, unless you speak, I can't read the chat for some reason. So if you just let me know, please speak out if you cannot see a Word document. If you can see it, then that's absolutely great. So as I say, we're looking at the second assignment today. And what we're going to do is help you understand how to find your company. And then also look at the support sheet that we've got available for you as well, so you can see all the resources which are available to you. Okay, so on Moodle there is a section called assessments for this module. So let me just go up and show you what's on there. So I've just screenshotted this. So you've got two assessments. You've got your group poster presentation, which Cassie discussed with you last week. And then you've got this one that we're looking at, which is an individual creative artifact. But what that really means in simple terms is an individual report, and it's worth 70% of the total marks. So we've got some files on that section. The first two, the assessment brief and the group diary template, they're for your first assignment. And then we've got a number of files here, which are for your second assignment. So we've got your assessment brief, which is this document, but I've amended it a little bit with some notes. You've got a cover sheet that you're going to need for this assignment. And you've got a guidance document, which I'm going to go through with you today. Just to make it really clear, there are no samples of previous assignment 2 for you. However, you'll see the guidance sheet is going to give you a proposed structure, and it goes in detail about all the things that you could include. So that's such a good document. The last thing we want to do is give you samples of previous assignments to a different brief that mean that you potentially copy those, or not necessarily copy them, but copy the way they approach them and actually do worse than if you did it from scratch. So there are no samples there, but there's a really good support document. Okay, so your second assignment then. So whereas your first one is a group presentation, the second one, so the highest mark, 70% mark weighting, is individual. So this time, so it's a written report and it's an individual assignment. And it's due on the 14th of May. Okay. It's 3,000 words plus or minus 10%. So that's, 2,700 to 3,300. And you're going to have the chance in it to put lots of graphs, charts, numbers, diagrams. So you can put a lot of information in there that won't necessarily make a huge impact on your word counts. You've still got you've got a lot of scope to show your detailed knowledge on it. So we're looking at 2 different learning outcomes for this assignment. I'll just check the chat that I haven't. Okay, so in terms of the learning objectives that we're looking at, you're going to be looking at and applying theories and models of data information and knowledge and decision making, but it's all around the marketing decisions of the organisation that you've chosen. So there's lots of models and frameworks, but you're going to look at putting them into practice to try and understand what they've done. Then for learning outcome 4, you're looking at the strategies that they've used based on the analytics. So based on understanding the data, what strategies have they then done to impact what they're doing marketing wise? So you're really getting into the understandings of how an organisation is performing. So it's really important to pick an organisation that you're interested in and one that you can find out quite a lot about. So for this individual assignment, you're writing a report. So that's a Word document. And I mentioned before, you can put in it lots of additional information. So you've got your graphs, your charts, your figures, and critical paragraphs is your written words. Okay. So you're going to pick one company from the FTSE 100 or the FTSE 250. So why are we asking you to make sure that they're in the FTSE 100 or the FTSE 250? Okay. Any ideas? By the way, sorry, I didn't say at the beginning, I am recording the session. I might put it on Moodle. I'll put one of them on Moodle. I'm not sure which one. So just to make you aware, it has been recorded. Yes, well done. So Hamza has commented, you'll be able to get a lot of information due to the size of the organisation if it's on the FTSE 100 or 250. Thank you very much, Hamza, for responding. So being on the FTSE 100 or 250, what that means is the organisation is in on the Financial Times stock exchange. Okay, so that means we could buy shares in it, so we could invest our money in it. Now, because of that, the organisation has got to be of a significant size. Otherwise, you can't have investors. You couldn't invest. For example, I have a small marketing consultancy. It's not on the stock exchange. You couldn't find out that level of information. So because it has investors, it has a high level of public scrutiny, because they've got to justify their decisions. They need to explain to investors what they're doing. And actually, you'll find not just on the databases that you're looking at, but actually they will have investor sections on their website as well. So you're going to have access, exactly what Hamza says, to a lot of information and very current information as well. So that's going to be really helpful. So something we've encouraged you to do for the first assignment, the group one, is to also pick an organisation from the FTSE 250 or FTSE 100. And the reason being, we want you to use your time wisely. So we suggest that you use potentially the same organisation in your first group assignment that you do for your individual one, because they're quite different in terms of what we're asking for, yet you'll be able to use a lot of your understanding and knowledge from one to the other. So that's why we've made that suggestion. So some of you will have been in touch with us and asked about a certain organisation. We may have said, actually, we don't think that's in the FTSE 250. Could you find another one? So that's why we sort of see that connection. Okay. So yes, absolutely. We're suggesting that you use that. You pick an organisation on the stock exchange of a significant size, so you can access a lot about it. So what's quite important and what we need to do is make sure that you know how to find out if it is on the FTSE 100 or the FTSE 250. So let me show you how you do that. And what I'm going to do afterwards, I'm going to post this message on Moodle so that you can see the instructions on how to do that. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to look at the London Stock Exchange. And we're going to go down to what's called the indices. So these are indexes. So we'll see here, we've got the first two, we've got the FTSE 100 and we've got the FTSE 250. So let's go and have a look on the FTSE 100. So we can, here we go, we can view the index. So we've got an overview here in terms of how it's performing. Is it up or is it down? But what we're really interested in is who's on there. Okay, so they're called the constituents, so the organisations on there. So we've got a list here of all the organisations, the top 100, okay, on the London Stock Exchange. So you go down, you carry on, you can go to the second page of them. We carry on to the third page, so we've got quite a lot, okay, and we carry on and carry on. So we've got quite a few of them that we can go to. We've got, you know, this page 6 or whatever, which has just got one. So, and the 250 has obviously got 250 organisations on there. The 100 has got 100 organisations on there. So we can look here at an organisation. Okay, so for example, a few of you have already mentioned that you're going to pick Tesco. So if we look here at Tesco, we can also find out a bit more information about it. So we've got some financial information that we can see. Okay, but also we've got their story. So we've got a little bit of background, not a huge amount. And we've got more contact details in terms of going to their website. So that will be their corporate website. So rather than their public website, which is one we can buy our shopping from, Tesco PLC, if I click onto that, here we go, see investors, media. So we've got quite a lot of stories here about what they're doing, about their approach to sustainability, their news, etc. So let's go back. So we've got here the industry they're in, so that's top headline, super sector, so that's like a really big size sector. We've got their FTSE sector, so how they're classed on the stock exchange, and then we've got their subsector. So we've got all this. So Tesco's are classed as a food retailer and wholesaler. Why is their FTSE sector important to know? What does that do in terms of helping you with the assignment, knowing that? Just waiting for the responses. Thank you very much for typing them in. It's good to have some interaction, so thank you. Yes, exactly that. So Patricia said, to know the competitors and understand the segment, and Hamza's still typing, so wait till. So thank you for that really good contribution, Patricia. I understand it's typing takes a little while, so thank you. For product information, okay. Yeah, absolutely. So we could understand the types of products which could be relevant to their strategic decisions. So we know what they're selling really, aren't we? That's what you're saying there, which is good. Okay, yes. So Hamza, it will help us understand in which industry Tesco's is dealing with, so we can get to know about their competitors. Yeah, absolutely. So we can understand, we can map out who else is in that sector. So if we've got Tesco's, another one in that sector is Morrison's as well. And I know some of you, there was one group that suggested for the first assignment that you're doing Tesco's, and then you were saying about comparing it to Morrison's. That would be amazing for this assignment, it wouldn't be as relevant for the first assignment. So got a little bit of contextualisation in the first assignment, the poster. However, in this assignment, we're really understanding the competitors. So that's right. Netra, very good. I think you've been watching the presentation, the introduction one, sorry, it's lecture this week, because actually marketing is all about an exchange, and it's about what people are paying for and what they're sacrificing and understanding the value. So that's excellent. And understanding the sector helps us understand what that exchange is. And Fazana, sorry if I said it wrong, again, market competition, that's perfect. So you've all got a really good understanding as to why we need to know the sector. And we can do this by looking at the London Stock Exchange. So that's wonderful. Okay. So yeah, good point there. So just to recap on that, just to make sure that we're really comfortable with that. So we've got the hyperlink that we're going to use. As I say, I'll share that. It's just, you are literally going to London Stock Exchange, and you've got there we go. We've got the FTSE 100 or the FTSE 250 to find a list of them, and then we've got what's called constituents, and they are the organisations on there. So Carnival PLC, I think that's the Carnival Cruise Company, I'm not sure. Crest Nicholson Holdings are going to be their house builders, Bellway House Builders, Capita, I think do quite a lot of different things, Redrow House Builders. So we've got the 250 list there that just goes on and on and on. Weatherspoons you'll be aware of potentially. They're pubs, so obviously they're going to be facing some challenges at the moment in the UK anyway. TUI, holiday company, again, a lot of challenges at the moment. Domino's, that'd be quite interesting actually, because with the lockdown, we've still been able to have takeaways. So actually, what's Domino's performance been like in this, you know, at this time? So we've got some really good options to choose from here. If you don't want to go through 250 companies to pick one, what you could do is look at the organisation you'd like to do and just check if they got an investors website, and if they have, does it link through to the stock exchange, in which case to look at their performance. So it will say if they're in the FTSE 100 or the FTSE 250. So you can either start by looking at the list, or you can start by looking at the organisation and checking it's on the list. Something else is which is really helpful, or could be worth knowing, is at the bottom of the website you might find that a company such as, let's have a look at one of these examples. For example, when you're looking at Domino Pizza Group PLC, it's actually going to be Domino's. That's what we know it as, Domino's, and it'll be Domino's. Domino's Pizza Group PLC trading as Domino's. So just have a look at the bottom of the website, because they might have a different trading name, but they're still the organisation that you're looking at. So it's the same organisation, but it's just got a longer name on the stock exchange. That's something. So there might be a little bit of confusion there. So just spell that out to us that it's the same company. So it could have a different trading name. Okay, let me go back to my notes on the assignment. So we're going to have potentially access to a lot of information on this company. And what you're going to do, Sama, one of my colleagues, is going to be taking you through a number of different websites, which are databases through the library. So there's FAME, which is Financial Analysis Made Easy. And there you can look at different sectors and you can look at different financial performance. Mintel, I like Mintel as a marketeer, it's really good. Mintel looks at consumer offerings, so it might look at the travel industry and then it looks at them over different geographies. So they have market research reports, as in cosmetics in China, for example, and it will have a report updated normally every 2 or 3 years. So it looks at lots of different sectors and lots of different geographies. So that gives a good intelligence. You know, when we were just hearing on the chat about looking at the products and the value from Netra, I was saying exchange products and value. This is what Mintel can tell us about. Market Line and Euromonitor, again, give us a lot more information about the sector and the players within it, so the organisations competing in it. So I'm going to leave the databases over to Sama and Jane Monk, and they're going to go through those with you. So you're going to have a good amount of knowledge on that. So that's where information will be covered by them. And you'll be able to find out their performance compared to their competitors and the external market influences. And on some of them, they've got, I think on Euromonitor, they have lots of news about the sector as well, which will be really helpful for this assignment. Okay, so you're going to have an introduction to those databases to really help you with this. And then we're also going to be looking at some of the marketing frameworks. For example, the marketing exchange might be one that you use for this to talk about, you know, what do they do in exchange for? So what do people sacrifice, or their customers, in exchange for what they provide? So you need to pick the appropriate concepts and models to use. And you've got to make sure you're going to have the chance to do some amazing referencing here, because you're going to be introduced to so many different sources. So you need to include all those, and you need to cite them using Harvard referencing. So you're going to create everything together on one Word document for us to mark. Okay, and you've got this separate, this is the workshop talking you through that, but you've got this separate guidance document on what to include. So you can use that whenever you're ready. And also I will put a recording of one of these seminars onto Moodle as well, so you've got that. So we know we've got a front cover sheet because that's on Moodle. I showed you on the screenshot. You're going to include your student ID everywhere. You've got, as you know, certain font sizes and things that you can use. Now, just before we move on, I just want to show you. So this is, as per the first assignment, we're looking for the same 4 things in terms of giving you marks. So each of these gets you up to 25% of the marks. So the first thing we need to know is that you really understand the subject. So that's marketing and data analytics, but also that you understand the organisation, that you've done your research there, so your knowledge of them is really good. Okay. Once you've demonstrated that knowledge, you can then go up a level and be critical about it. You can only do that if you really have a handle on what they're saying, so you really understand how they're performing. So this is where you start to process it more, and it's called higher cognitive skills and originality as well. So in other words, that they, the sort of, you're able to construct a real understanding as to why they've chosen to do certain things, because you've really understood the data, you've used models to analyse it, and then you can start to bring meaning together. And it's not just what you're reading, it's what you're interpreting, and that's those higher level skills, thinking skills. Now the next bit, advanced technical professional research. Oh, this assignment is perfect for this, Mark, because you're going to be looking at these databases. So you're going to be analysing what's really useful here. And I think the key with this, there's so much you could put in there. So the key is to be really focused on what you leave in, but also what you leave out. Okay, so that you don't overload us with too much information. But you do the relevant information at the relevant depth. And then finally, how do you present it in terms of the written, you know, how your use of tables, charts, graphs, making sure that it's so professional and innovative in terms of how you're putting your message across. So you're getting 25% of your marks for that, and you're following the Harvard referencing conventions. So that's an introduction just to the assignment initially, assignment 2. Before I move on, have you got any questions on assignment 2 before I go on to the support sheet and how you should go about it, the guidance sheet? Anything? I can see some typing, but I don't know if okay, I'll come back to you and just check what you've written shortly. Okay. Can we show our work before submitting? What we've got is, we've got on your schedule, there are a couple of sessions where you've got one-to-one sessions, and I'm just going to have a look at when those are. So basically, you don't email it over because we won't look at it that way, but actually turn up to one of those sessions, and then you can go through it with us then. So I'm pretty sure the last couple, what we've tried to do is put all the teaching content in before Easter, before you break up, and then after Easter there are the one-to-ones. So there's like taught lectures, there's video lectures still, but the sessions aren't trying to give you any new knowledge, they're literally giving you a chance to show your work. Okay. Could you please tell us the mark percentages of each section so we'll be able to include the data according to the percentage? I will show you in a second the breakdown of the assessment, which comes with word count. So actually, in terms of the mark sections, they're just what I just showed you. So subject knowledge and criteria is 25% of it, higher cognitive skills is 25% of it, advanced research skills 25%, written oral communication 25%. So it's not like you've got those 25% and then within it you've got this section's worth 15%, this one's not. You know, it's basically they're the high level, and then I'm going to show you now what needs to go into it. So hopefully, Hamza, that will it won't directly answer your question, but it'll show you what you need to include to get those marks. Okay, so let me move on to that. So that is the second thing. So this is on Moodle, this second document that I'm going to show you, the guidance document. Okay, so on here, obviously you need your front cover. So you've already got that downloadable on Moodle with all your information. Right, page 2, we're asking you to include an executive summary. Why do we want an executive summary? Just waiting for you to respond, then I'll for an overview. Yes, it does give an overview, but it's something, it does more than that. So yeah, at one level, very high level overview, and very quickly we can see what's in there. Why does that matter? Okay. Just wait one more minute. It summarises the whole idea about what the writer is intending to do and is helpful to the reader to skim a quick glance about the work. Absolutely spot on. Right, we have 400 assignments to mark. 400 assignments means we need a level of confidence quite quickly that you've got it, that you understand the assignment. And I know in terms of marketing, what we're always thinking about is consumer psychology. So what's the person we're trying to sell to? How are they receiving things? What are they thinking? This sort of thing. From your point of view, it's about teacher psychology almost, or your lecturer psychology. How can you put across very quickly, how can you make their life easier, not more difficult? How can you show them that you've got the concept? And actually, as soon as we read an executive summary and you think, oh gosh, they've really understood this. So it's the headline. So for Zana, it is that overview as to what you've done. But it's more than that. It gives us this incredible confidence as to they've really understood it. The structure works. It meets the assessment criteria. It shows their learning outcomes. So that's exactly the role of it. So it's really important, actually. You do not do the executive summary until you finish the report, because it's literally, you're mimicking the report. So you're doing the same sections, but you're just doing a sentence or two for each one. If you are not familiar with Microsoft Office's contents page facility, where it creates a contents page for you using these things up here like header 1, header 2, please look into that, because for a report of this size, it's really important to use what I call signposting. And signposting is a way, again, that we can see that you've met the learning criteria, that you've followed a logical structure. Structure is key. And also, if you can imagine marking all those assignments, all 400, and you're looking on Moodle and you've just got page after page and they're blocks of text. And this has happened. One student I taught at a different university, it was a 2,000 word report and they wrote 40,000 words. So they did it, how many times is that? 20 times more than they should have done. And I don't think she used headers or subheaders. It was just, and it didn't actually answer the learning criteria. It didn't meet the learning criteria either. So please use headers, subheaders so that we can easily navigate, and it shows that you've done the contents. Okay, so use and then use a table of contents. But if you use these headers, heading 1, header 2, etc., it allows you to update the table of contents really easily. And then put page numbers on there as well, which you can just insert manually. So it's a function on Word that you can use. Get the title right. So get one that makes sense so we can understand what you're trying to achieve on here. And again, just what you're doing is, if you can save us thinking time and effort, it just allows us then to give you good marks, and we're not having to work out what you're trying to do, because that extra effort, it makes it harder to award marks because it's not as clear. So simple things like using your student ID on every page, doing the things that you know you've got to do, the page numbering and the declaration. So in the introduction, right, so 100 words for the introduction is possibly 2 paragraphs. What would you say in the introduction? What sort of things do you think should be included? Brief background to the company. It could do. So it's what you don't want to do is then use something that you're going to use later on. What I do is use it to grab attention, and by that I'd do something about. Sorry, I noticed another couple of people are writing as well, but yeah. So brief background, or something that's more relevant, more interesting. Why did you pick it? Was there anything else? So just wait till I can read. Brief overview of what the company does. So yeah, you could, but let's have a look at how that ties in with what else we're going to be putting, because heading 2 is the company profile. So that's going to be relevant key facts, figures about the company, the financials, so how they're performing, the sector, which we've already had a look at, the London Stock Exchange, and what's changed in the sector and the business itself. So there's a little bit of repetition potentially, isn't there, unless we do something different in the introduction. So has anyone else got any ideas what they could do in the introduction? Okay. I would look at something, as I say, something attention grabbing, maybe discuss why you've chosen it. So what is it particularly that interests you about it? So going back to our sort of, when I was talking about all these companies that we could look at, I mentioned, say, Domino's Pizza. I'd be quite interested in seeing how's it performed in the pandemic. Actually, given that we've had less options to eat out, has a company with a distinct, a takeaway offering excelled? So we're using it as an opportunity to see how they've performed in this sort of environment. Weatherspoons, Weatherspoons have had a very, very off and on time, haven't they, in terms of their opening, because they're a pub. So how are they faring? Are they looking like they could survive? So maybe in your introduction, take it a step differently, have a think about sort of what angle are we looking at here? What are we really curious to find out about? Right, when you're doing an assignment, when you're doing meaning preparing and writing one, if you're just describing what an organisation has done, even with excellent sources, you're not being critical enough. What you need to be is curious. Why is this happening? What's the implications? How's it doing? Asking lots of questions and trying to find those out. Whet our appetite. So what I mean by that in the introduction, tell us why it's going to be interesting and try and get that interest through, and then come back to it at the end. So actually, in a pandemic environment, we found that Weatherspoons have got really good reserves. So actually, they look like they're set for a really successful future, and they should be able to manage to survive in this period, for example. I don't know, because I don't know their financial analysis. So the next section we've got, just check if there's anything in the, is we're looking internally at the organisation. So we're looking at, and what we need to do, so we've got a number of subheadings. So this does, Hamza, hopefully this does answer what you were saying about like what should be included, but it doesn't, we've got an indication as to words, but it doesn't give a breakdown as to marks, because it isn't like we give 5 marks for company profile, 4 marks for internal analysis. We don't do it like that. What we do, we look at those 4 marking criteria, and we just make sure that you've if you follow this, you've met the contents of it. So you'd be fine. So it says here, right, we're just focusing on 2 of these, and we've got 4 options. So we could either look at strategy, culture, resources, or socio-political, and we're looking inside the organisation, and you're going to pick just 2. My question to you is, on lots of these sections, there are 4 or 5 options, and we're asking you to focus just on 2. Why are we asking you to do that? What are we trying to find out? We've got the same, I'll give you some other examples of this as well, because it happens quite a lot. We've got it here, market analysis. You've got 4 things: consumer trends, agencies, competitor strategies, mixed media message, just 2. A pestle, just 2. So why? Why are we doing? Why are we asking you to focus just on 2? Just show the word count as well while we're just waiting. So for the internal analysis, we've got 400 words. So we're asking you for 200 words on 2 of those of your choice. Yay, well done, Hamza. Thank you. Exactly that. What we're trying to do, if we go back to this, so Hamza said, so that we get maximum information and deep insight into each section. Okay, perfect. Because otherwise, what we've got is, if you're just doing 100 words on strategy, 100 words on culture, 100 words on resource, 100 words on socio-political, what you will get less marks, because there's no depth. All you're going to do is describe this, describe that, describe the other. We want you to go deep into it, but there's more than that. We also want you to do another thing, and this is really important. What we want you to do is choose the most relevant 2 out of the 4. So if it's a pestle, we want you to choose which 2 of those elements you think are most useful to analyse the organisation. Okay. So I'll carry on. I'll keep checking back on the chat. So we're looking, first of all, context analysis is internal analysis, market analysis, and external analysis. So it looks at the big picture as to what's going on in the business, wider what's going on in the market, and then externally what's going on in the world. What's the change, what's changing. So for the market analysis, we're looking at trends for consumers, for example, what's going on with competitors, what strategies are they using, what are they communicating. So you're going to pick 2 of those and go into depth. Environmental analysis, I hope by now you're all quite familiar with a pestle. So a pestle, if you're not, I'll cover it in the video and the slides, looks at political, economic, sociological, technological, legal and environment. So if we were looking at an organisation, I'm trying to think of an example, such as one that's, say, a technology organisation, or say, for example, something like Tesla. What Tesla we might do is we might say the 2 we're going to focus on are environmental, because actually they are capitalising on a sustainable agenda, and actually we're also looking at technological, because the availability of because they might have a lot of technology that's built into it. So what I want you to do is not just choose them and apply them. I want you to justify why those 2 are most interesting in terms of their point of difference, their unique selling proposition. So why, you know, how the 2 that you're picking feed into what they're actually doing. Okay, so we've got here, I think this is really helpful, because you literally already, you can almost create your subheaders for this assignment. You can use this Word document in the assessment section, and you can just take out the bits you don't want to use, and you've got the headers all there. So we've looked internally, we've looked at the marketplace and what's going on. We've then looked at a pestle analysis, just focusing on 2 of those. And now we want to look at what they're actually doing. So what decisions have they made? And their decisions include their marketing communications. So what's their strategy in terms of what they're communicating? So you might be, do you remember when we looked at Tesco's website, it had lots of news stories? That's what they're communicating, so that gives you an indication. I noticed some things on there about sustainability. So what's their strategy for communicating? The drip model, so this is covered in one of my marketing lectures, so it's either this week or not, this one just gone, it's either next week or the week after we look at communications. A drip model is when we look at marketing messages and whether they differentiate, whether they reinforce, whether they inform, or whether they're about persuading people. So you're looking at actually what's the intention behind the communication, so you're analysing what they're doing. And then we're looking at their customer base. How did they group people together? Is it by age? Is it by geography? Is it by economic position in terms of their wealth? Is it by attitude? And then we're working out, how do we build a profile, or how do they build a profile of the ideal customer? So if it's EasyJet, you know, if they've got a couple of different profiles, so if they've got one that might be a business customer that wants a high level of flexibility or whatever they want, and have they got a leisure consumer that wants, it's about price but also about convenience. So they start to build up these target customers, so the ideal customer. And then once you know who your ideal customer is, you work out what matters to them. And again, this is in the sort of segmenting, targeting and positioning. So actually what might matter to them is about convenience, it might be about quality, it might be about, I'm trying to think what else could be useful. It could be, for example, in cars, it could be whether it's a sports car or whether it's a family car. It could be, if it's to do with something we buy for gifts, it's about the reputation. So we identify 2 things that really matter to our end customers, and then we look at our competitors and where do we sit on that. So we've got 2 axes. There is an example, I'm sure I've done it, of the automotive market for this on the slides and on the lecture. And then we look at where different car brands fit within it, and you look at where your brand will fit in on that diagram. So that diagram, because we're asking you to actually do that and create one, really it needs to be informed by things that you can find data on. So actually you can genuinely compare in terms of if it's something about the number of sales, or it's, so that could be popularity, but it's something you've got a genuine and a valid source of data to create that map. But just remember some small things about that map. First of all, it will give you marks without using any words, and that's amazing, you know, that's really helpful. Secondly, get a few extra marks, make sure you do things like label it. So actually that it's a positioning map for XXX, and it's based on and then put your sources in there. So if you find someone that talks about in one of their books positioning maps, then you can do adapted from, and you adapt it from that book. Things like that are just little thoughtful things, but they show that you're actually using sources really wisely. Then we're looking at, so we've looked at what they're doing, but then we're looking at what their competitors are doing. So a peer is somebody in the same industry, not somebody, an organisation in the same industry, but we're looking at how they're performing in comparison to other people in their industry. So for example, how are they performing on a number of different things? So you're looking at Financial Access Made Easy database for that to see how they're performing. We're looking at what that actually tells us, how they're financially performing and who are the top 5 in that industry. And is your business one of those top 5? And if so, why? Or if not, why not? But we're looking at actually how they're making different business decisions. So how is that then relating to their financial performance? And then we bring it all together. And I like assignments that start with a certain question or viewpoint, and then they end with it. They come back to it and they actually say, you know, now we've considered the data and we've looked at their strategies and we've looked at how they're performing in the marketplace compared to their competitors. We can find out, for example, with the Wetherspoons example, that they seem in a strong position moving forwards, and actually are going to be able to diversify potentially as the COVID restrictions rise. So you might have something, but we're looking at how that data that you've analysed, how that impacts their financials and how they're using these data analytics positively. So they're using it as a source of invaluable information to look at the future direction of the business. So that could be internal data and also be external data. So we're concluding with that. And then we've just got things like our references, just make sure you do those correctly. Appendices, so any information that's good background that you feel we should know. If it's just share it. However, if it's relevant to the body of the assignment, so if it's a positioning map, keep it in the body of the assignment. Don't. So please put it in the relevant place, because appendices do not get marks. So we will glance through them, but we won't award marks to them. So if it's going to get you some marks, put it in the body of the report. So that's what I wanted to talk through in terms of the assignments. Has anyone got any questions whilst we're still together on the second assignment? Okay, I can't see any typing, so I'll just what I'd like to say in then, that's great. I'll keep this recording, so thank you very much. I'll just actually conclude it here. So there's a couple of points to mention.